Hold on a minute.
I'm on
Okay.
All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope everything is copacetic. All right, it is 16 minutes after the hours of 10 o'clock. I've got Mr. Devon Morgan in the house, and you always hear me talk about simply the best barbershop located down there in Willesden. Well, this is my peeps down there. Anyway, Mr. Morgan, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
All right, now, you're the author of 2 books then. What's the name of the books?
One is called Love of Money, Root of All Evil, ? And the subtitle, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, ?
Okay. So let me ask you a question now. What led you to write a book with such controversial title?
Many years ago, I had this friend called, but let's not call his name. We had this discussion about money. And I was saying to him, he's a Christian, and I was saying to him that the wording of the to do with money in the Bible, that goes, the love of money is the root of all evil, emphasizing the word all. I said to him that cannot be correct, since we know in our own experience that there are many evil acts that have nothing to do with the love of money. It does not have the root of the action in terms of loving of money. So I also said to him that it would be more accurate to say the love of money is the root of some evil. If the Bible had said that, it would have a case. So, but he insisted that no, Bible is absolutely correct, it's the root of all evil. So I said to him, is pedophile have anything to do with love of money? And believe it or not, he said yes, and I was shocked. And then I realized that there is this deep psychological thing where once a person believes in something, they will go to extraordinary length to justify it, or they will not concede in the slightest to not win that argument. And it didn't matter what I said to him in terms of giving him examples of things that we do that have nothing to do with the love of money. He would not budge, saying yes, it is absolutely correct. So that made me start to think about what effect having such a negative attitude towards money is having on people. Because I have heard for many years that in spite of people like us who live in developed countries, come time for retirement, only about 5% of us that retire in any measure of comfort. And that always puzzled me, to think that 5%, and doing my research I realized that this 5% of people, the 95% that did make it, wasn't just people who never made any money in their lifetime, or they didn't have large wages or anything like that. Many of the people who didn't make it were people who made a lot of money. So the question is, why so few make it? So that's the reason why the title came about, trying to set the record straight about to challenge this idea, basically, that love of money is not the root of all evil.
All right, let me ask you this then. Why is this this subject so important?
Well, money is extremely important. As a matter of fact, somebody once said that it ranks close to the value of oxygen, especially in the developed world that we live, especially if you live in urban areas, in cities. You cannot do anything without money. So when you live in a situation where money is such an high pressure thing, where people spend so much time in pursuit of it, it's extremely important.
All right. Apart from the possible psychological factors, why do you suppose so few of us actually retire in a state of financial comfort? Is it the lack of knowledge of how to?
Yes, it is. Money in itself or financial competence. It's a skill, and there's many people have written books trying to teach us how to handle money, how to earn money, and how to make money grow. So it has something to do with skill, apart from the psychological factors. So you have books like The Richest Man in Babylon, that is, I think that book was written all the way back in 1936 or something like that, or 48 or something like that. That is still being actively sold. So some of it has to do with the knowledge of how to. Many of us don't know how to invest. We just know how to basically earn a wage and put it in the bank. So that is a problem in itself.
Alright. Now, should we love money? Because I hear the old time folks, people say, boy, if you love money, it's going to take you down the path of evilness and so forth. Should we love money? I love money, but I just want to hear your response.
Yes, we should. Now, apart from the fact that we can't live without it, it represents the basic necessities of life: food, clothes, and shelter. And it is a very strange thing that we should spend our life, the biggest chunk of our life, pursuing and working for something that we don't love. That is a contradiction in itself. And the thing that we love, we tend to pay more attention to, we tend to give more care to, we tend to want to learn more about. So the reason why people have a problem with saying about loving money, because they have been told so much, given so much misinformation about money, in terms of somehow saying that you love money is problematic because it indicates greed and all that sort of thing, which is not accurate. So loving money, since it represents so many good things, and I can't think of many things that is negative to do with money, that would be cleared up in the book, in the sense that people often confuse people's behavior and blame money for that behavior. So that's part of what we'll touch on later on.
Alright, pardon me. Off the air, we was all in a conversation, and what do you mean when you say the money we earn is a reflection of who we are? Expound on that, please.
Well, money doesn't fall out of the sky, and money is usually related to something. That's why different people earn different sums of money in the marketplace. So money, in effect, is a reflection of our skills, for example. It's a reflection of our talent.
Give me an example.
Well, an accountant will make more than somebody who sweep the street.
Okay.
It's that simple. So, not to say that's not important, it's just the way the marketplace works. So
right.
This is not disparaging anybody that sweep the street. I'm just saying the marketplace recognizes certain skills and reward it accordingly. So, it's a reflection of the type of person we've become. For example, a person who's a millionaire have certain mindset, certain attitude towards money, and a certain skill set that the poor person doesn't have. So you always find that there's a correspondence between the type of person you are and the way you think and the way you feel. That will indicate the level of risk you will take. All of that have something to do with who you are in terms of the amount of money you will earn.
Okay, I read the book, alright, and I put it up there. I personally put it up there with The Richest Man in Babylon by, was it George Class?
Clayson.
The other one is The Richest Man in Babylon by Napoleon Hill.
No, that's Rich. Think and Go Rich.
Pardon, thank you. And Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
So I put your book up there. Now, does money make us happy? I mean, it would make me happy, but I just want to know, does it make us happy?
Well, the one thing I can say, it has a far better record than poverty.
Obviously, yeah, okay.
So,
it was a stupid question for me to
but the other thing is that money and happiness is two different subjects.
Okay.
People tend to want to conflate them together to somehow that they are somehow related. They are not.
Well, sorry, let me just say this. I was watching something on TV yesterday about Elvis. Had all the money, but he was unhappy. Shooting dope in the whole 9 yards. So he wasn't really happy at the end. It depends on your state of mind.
Yes, so money, what money does, if you are a very kind person, if you get money, you're going to be even more kind, because that's the driving force that in terms of who you are.
Okay.
So what we are, money just facilitates us to express more of who we are. So if you're let's say you're a person who drinks a bit, if you get money, you get drunk in style. So you're going to drink more expensive alcohol. If you're a person who tends to abuse your missus or your wife, if you beat her once a week, maybe if you get money, you want to do it twice a week. We just express more of who we are, and money gives us the freedom to do what we are. But we blame the money, while the person had already had the desire to do certain things. They didn't have the freedom to do it. For example, people have often said, well, if I win the lottery today, I will tell my boss where to shove it. So here it is, they're having the thought before, in advance. They have a certain attitude towards their boss, that they're saying the money will give them the freedom to say it. But then if they do get the money and they act in a certain way disrespectful to people, people will blame the money. But in fact, this is what they've been thinking. And this is the attitude they secretly have that they never express. So money tends to bring out some of our secret desires and our secret attitude that we won't express because we don't think we have the power to do so.
Alright, thanks. The book mentioned the difference between greed and ambition. Could you expound on that a little bit more, please?
Well, yes. People often, like if somebody expresses a desire they want to make X amount of money, or I've seen situations where somebody has a fair amount of money and they work in 7 days a week or whatever, and somebody will comment that, oh, that person is greedy. You know, they have all this money, why they don't sort of, take it easy. And one of my mentors, Jim Rohn, the late Jim Rohn, actually gave this clarification, where he says, and this was very important for me to make that distinction, that greed is when you want something at somebody's expense. Ambition, when you will only achieve at the service of others. So service is good. So if you serve 1 million people, you can make $1 million or £1 million or £2 million, depending on what you engage in. So greed is when you want something at somebody's expense. That means they lose as a result of your gain. That is greed. Ambition is good because it makes you strive to be the best that you can be and to give the service that you can give. So the other point I want to make about this money issue is this. Going to the point about why should we love money. Now, we exchange our most precious asset for money. What is our most precious asset? Time. We exchange a lifetime for these things. So how can you give up your most precious asset, which is your time? Once you've spent a week or a year, it's gone. And you spend all the time for money and you don't love the thing that you exchange your time for. How many people have given up time with their children in their because they have to? Because circumstance forced them to be out there working, but they say, oh, I don't love money. While if they had money, they could do spend a lot more time with their children. Now, we mentioned a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad earlier. Let me just read a quote from the author, Robert Kiyosaki, and you might find this interesting. He says, much of our ideas about money come from our beliefs. For instance, when I was at Sunday school, I often heard the teacher say, the love of money is the root of all evil. In other words, if you are a rich man, you are probably evil. And I sat there listening to that stuff for a while and really questioning my beliefs and my own soul. The other thing people say is, well, if I become rich, then I will have more stress and I will have less time with my family. And yet, when I look at my rich friends, people who don't have jobs but have massive amount of passive or portfolio income coming in, they spend much more time with their family. They have more free time. they live a better lifestyle, and they are able to buy better health care and better education for their kids. Now, this is a small part of the value of money. We can think of many things that money is useful for, like eliminate poverty, help when there's disasters in the world. You see hurricane wipe out many islands in recent time, where people are suffering and in dire need. What if you had unlimited funds? Would you do a good thing and go to those people's rescue? So there is so many things that money help to do that is positive, and yet still you have these pervasive ideas that are negative towards money, like the title about love of money being the root of all evil. Or people will say things like, to make money you have to be ruthless, and you're thinking that is not true. Because if you don't give people good service to make money, eventually you will lose, and people will stop buying your product or service or whatever. Money and ruthlessness have nothing to do with anything. People confuse the two things, that people are ruthless in different aspects of life, like in politics, etc., etc. But to earn money, how does ruthlessness apply to earning money? If you're giving people poor service, then eventually they're not going to buy your product. Because usually money is earned in very simple ways in most cases. Either you're selling products or you're providing service. Those are the two main ones. Otherwise, from that, it's about investment, etc. So people have all of these misguided ideas about you have to be ruthless. And then if you believe in what we call the subconscious mind, just for argument's sake, you did believe in that. And the evidence of the subconscious mind is what we see. Hypnosis get to it, where they can hypnotize somebody and they act in ways that they don't remember. It's all, the evidence of the subconscious is where dreams come from. We dream, and we have no idea where. I don't have no idea. I can't relate to that thing that I dreamt about. So we are saying, if you fill your subconscious mind, so you can take this as a theory, you don't have to accept this. If you fill the subconscious mind with negatives about money, it will bring that back to you, and will keep you. It will help to keep to make a wide berth from you achieving anything apart from just getting by and surviving, basically. Because the subconscious will take it up as meaning that, oh, that's a bad thing, that's a negative thing, it's going to cause me difficulty, it's going to cause me pain. I've heard somebody say to me once that, oh, if I won the lottery, I'd lose all my friends. And all these negative things that people accumulate, in my view, the subconscious pick it up and it guides you away from the thing that you think negative of. It's called the pain-pleasure principle, where we move towards pleasure and we move away from pain. So I encourage you to find all the positives to justify the pursuit of money.
Okay, finally, talk a little about the statement on the cover of your book, please.
Yeah, one of the statements is money is the innocent victim of misplaced blame. And I have sort of alluded to it a few times, where I'm saying, look, lots of the behavior that we think money has something to do with it. We see people behave in all sorts of different ways. For example, even when we see people do things, whether or not you have, what do you call it, whatever action that we associate people doing for money, and money is the thing to blame for their action. Remember this. Money is an inanimate object. It doesn't have any ability to hypnotize us. It doesn't have the ability to speak to us. It doesn't have the ability to influence us. We are the ones who put our emotions on the money.
So question. So you say money is the innocent victim of misplaced blame?
Yes, we blame the money for our own weaknesses.
Okay. And finally on this question, could this belief stem success flow?
Yes, it does. Well, that's the idea about the subconscious, that it will stem your success flow, because you have put that into your subconscious. It's almost like you're giving it an instruction, say, oh, this is bad, keep me away from it.
Sorry. Okay, now before I go further on to, because you have another book and I want to discuss that with you in a minute and hear your thoughts and philosophy ideologies. Love of Money, where can we get copies of this? Because it's a new book. As far as I'm concerned, it's a new book. Where can we get copies of it?
It's on Amazon. Book is available on Amazon, and yes, Amazon it's available on Amazon.
Okay, and also, my peeps JJ and his son Trey and Taisha. No, not Taisha, Tiana. You can get a book down at Simply the Best Barbershop. They're located down there in Willesden. Alright? Around Pound Lane. Alright. You got another book out there. Well, how many books do you have out altogether anyway?
It's 3 at the moment.
Okay. Well, this one is Demystifying Cash. As a matter of fact, the other book you got, Love of Money, Root of All Evil. Can you show to the public them that book, please? Well, you might need to go a little closer, if anything. Alright, cool. Alright. Alright, pull back, and that's it. Alright, thank you. Now, you got another book. Could you show the crowd of people that, please? And the title of that is what?
Demystifying Cancer, Exposing the Deception of the No Cure for Cancer.
Okay, thank you. Now, could you start by explaining the choice of the title? And but let me say this first. I had a guest on the other day, and he was talking about cancer, right? And it's nothing to do with him or anything. But I learned a lot. But I've read your book, and I believe I've learned a lot more from it. So, could you start by explaining the choice of the title, Demystifying Cancer, please?
Well, for a start, considering how much money the cancer industry takes in terms of people donating to cancer research and all of that, you would find that people know more about what causes, for example, a heart attack than they know about what causes cancer. I am sure if you pick at random any person off the street and ask them, what is cancer? They will not be able to explain it. So for me, that is odd in itself to think that here is an industry that's one of the richest in the world, the pharmaceutical industry, and they have not spent any time explaining to people what is cancer and how does cancer occur in the body, what causes it to occur, what's the process of cancer. So it's one of two things. Is either they do not have an explanation as to how cancer occurs in the body, or they don't, it's either they don't know how it happened, right? Or for some reason they don't think it's important enough to explain this thing to people, how cancer occurs. So the whole point about demystifying is to show to people that the information is already there and it's already been demystified from 1924. The whole thing was demystified. It was demystified in 1924 by a gentleman that I'll mention a bit later as well, called Dr. Otto Warburg, who explained what cancer is and how it occurs in the body. And the fact that the cancer industry has made no effort to educate people about this, and hence the title to say, well, let's demystify this, because what you find is that we're afraid of what we don't understand. We're afraid of the unknown. That's a simple psychology 101, that people are afraid of what they don't know. So my aim was to demystify it, to make it simple and make it easy for people to understand.
Okay, I interviewed somebody last week, and they were saying cancer seems to affect more melanated people. Is that a true statement?
Say that again. What's the question? Repeat the question.
Okay, I interviewed somebody last week.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And they stated that cancer seems to affect melanated people more. Yes or no? Is that a true statement?
Well, according to the statistics, it is.
Okay.
The stats support that idea, yes.
Is that me? Just to ask you, is that because of the food we eat and those kind of things? Then?
It is that is one of the factors that I mentioned.
Okay.
That we tend to eat a lot more things like salt and processed foods and sugars and all of that.
Okay. Thanks. What caused you to write a book about cancer anyway?
It was triggered by the death of my aunt. A few years ago, she had cancer, and I had already been gathering information about cancer for the maybe 10 years prior to her death. I had actually, been gathering information about it. So, but I couldn't get her to look at any an alternative viewpoint about what the problem she was facing. So we had a situation where, just like in most situations, she's diagnosed, she goes for treatment. Then I think about a year later, they gave her the all clear, and everybody was celebrating except me, because I had some ideas about how this thing worked. So I think, well, a year later, I think it was, or was it 2 years? I can't remember exactly, but the cancer came back, and I then tried to get her to look at some other information. And
so, why was you? Well, everybody was rejoicing, but you was kind of like,
because I understood. I already understood how the cancer thing worked, because I've been doing that research for like nearly 10 years.
Expound on that a little bit for me, please.
Well, the one thing about the all clear, the all clear just means that they can't physically see any cancer cells in the body. Wherever they might have, let us say it was breast cancer, and they went and examined the breast after they did the treatment. If they can't see the cancer there, in the cancer cell, they say, well, it's all clear. But because the simple logic says that to fix a problem, you have to go to the root of the problem. And they never dealt with the root of the problem. All they did was do their usual thing, which is what I call a scorched earth policy, where they burn things out. But they don't have any system to say, well, what was it that led to this point where somebody have these cancer cells? What caused the body to develop these cancer cells? So I knew, since you didn't deal with the root problem, most people, as a matter of fact, there was some bit of information that I had where in their world, the way they do this thing, which is a little bit problematic for people, well, not a little, it's a lot problematic. They will have these statistics to indicate about cancer cures or people who have benefited from their treatment. And basically, it says that if you survive 5 years after treatment, it's a success.
Okay.
And then, so the fact is, my auntie, when they gave her that all clear, it wasn't even 5 years. But the point is, I knew their system was not correct. So that is why.
Under chemotherapy, does it come back, once they give the chemotherapy, does it come back more aggressively?
Yes, I have quoted at least several doctors who have attested to that in the book, that the cancer tends to come back more aggressively, and lots of people have that sort of experience, that after chemotherapy the cancer tends to come back even more aggressively. That is a common thing that happens to people.
Okay, last year or the year before, there was something that was on TV, Jamaican News, and a woman was diagnosed with cancer, but she changed her dietary and she said she was all clear a couple months later. Are you familiar with that?
I think, yes, I think I saw that one. Yes.
Okay. Is it a true statement from what you understand or understand? Is that a true statement by changing your dietary? If they claim that you got cancer, then you change your dietary and it can help.
There is evidence to support that. Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right. How long did it take you to gather all this information? Because I read it, it's very in-depth. All right. How long did it take you?
Well, as I said, it took me the information, even though I hadn't intended to write the book, but the type of person I am, I study. I have this since I was inspired by the late Jim Rohn to look at life in a certain way. And he encouraged to be interested in life and people. So all subject to do with the challenges of life, I spend an enormous amount of time trying to understand it. And it so happened that this is one of the subjects that interests me, amongst, as I've just talked about, money and all sorts of subjects interest me. So it was like a 10-year period leading up to the point when I wrote the book that I had gathered information from many sources.
Can you tell us about the source of your information and what you discovered?
Well, I think the first detailed explanation about cancer in terms of what I've written started with Tony Robbins. I mean, many of you I would think would be familiar with Tony Robbins. So he had, so that would be like 10 years prior to me writing the book. I had purchased some tapes called Living Health. And he went into detail to explain. He was the one who first mentioned Dr. Otto Warburg, the German doctor, who had demonstrated how cancer occurs in the body. So he was one of the first sources of information. So then Dr. Otto Warburg, obviously, I went and I studied his work. And then in 2009, Cancer Research UK did another clinical trial, similar to what Dr. Otto Warburg did. And they did a clinical trial in 2009. And it confirmed everything that Dr. Warburg had said in 1924, that many years later. But their research was as if it was a breakthrough for them. It's as if they had no idea that Dr. Warburg had made these discoveries, and that information is readily available online. And also, the other source of information, I quoted at least 20 doctors in the book.
Okay, now I read the book, and could you give me a brief explanation on this, the oxidization of the cell?
Before I go into that, in terms of source of information, again, you asked earlier to do with whether or not the diet issue.
Yeah.
There's one case study that I document in the book where you have this lady called Teresa Kay. That there was an article published some years ago in the paper where she was diagnosed with lymphatic cancer. Now, lymphatic cancer is one of the most difficult cancers to deal with. For those of you who are familiar with the human body, and that's one of my pet arguments anyway, that human biology should be a compulsory subject in school. So we at least have a basic understanding of the human body work. But lymph is all over the body. It's like, it's almost similar to your what do you call it, your blood network, the network of your veins and arteries. So, but the lymph is specifically, one of its purpose is to help in terms of the body's defense. So it's part of your immune system, so to speak, right? So when you have a problem with your immune system, which is to help you to protect you, and if that part of your body becomes infected with cancer, you can imagine that's like going to your doctor for help and finding that your doctor is also sick. It's problematic. So you imagine that's a difficult one, and she went to the hospital and they gave her a 50-50 chance. She refused to take chemotherapy and decided to embark on what is known as the Gerson therapy. And she survived without the customary damages that happens from things like chemotherapy, where, I mean, most of us who have seen people who have gone through this process, or those of us who have gone through this process, I've seen where people lose their hair, and I didn't realize until I did the research that people also lose their teeth. And you're thinking something as that powerful to do something like that can't be good. So that's one of the examples of information that I gathered to demonstrate where the real solution lies.
Okay, as I said, could you give me a brief breakdown about the deoxidization of the cells?
Well,
and also the kind of money that being pumped into this industry at the time, please.
Well, the oxidation, the whole thing to do with oxygen started with Dr. Warburg. Now, he did a clinical trial where he took some cells, living cells, and he would reduce the oxygen supply to the cells, because we know oxygen is king. You can go what? How many days without water? How many days without food? If you go like 10 minutes without oxygen, you probably break the world record or something. So we know oxygen is a critical part of the way for survival. And so one of the illnesses we know is associated with oxygen is like a stroke. If a deprivation of oxygen to the brain causes a stroke. Heart disease, heart attack as well is insufficient blood to do the heart. And what does the blood pumps? The blood carries oxygen. So oxygen has something to do with having an heart attack as well. When there is not enough oxygen as a result of the blood being too thick and there's not enough oxygen, you can get a heart attack, etc. So Dr. Warburg, when he did his experiment, he wanted to test this hypothesis that if you deny cells of a certain amount of oxygen, what would happen to it? So he started off with, say, 80% deprivation, all the cells dies. When he brought it down to about 60%, some of the cells died, but some of the cells mutate. So the mutated cells is what is actually called cancer cells. So they don't die, but they change form and the way they function change. And what happened as well, they start to, because the body have this drive to survive, the cells start to live off things like carbon dioxide. And as a result of that, because carbon dioxide is a poison, you're supposed to breathe that out. But if the cell can't get enough oxygen, as they say in a dying man clutches straws, the body behaves in an instinctive way where it's trying to get something to survive on. And then it starts to get its energy from combining sugar with so it starts a process called fermentation, where there's a mixture of sugar and carbon dioxide. And that becomes problematic. And if that metastasizes, then that's what we call the spread of cancer.
Okay, I'm looking at time. We got like another 7 minutes. The subtitle of the book is Exposing the Deception of No Cure for Cancer. Explain the nature of this deception, please.
The nature of deception has to do with, first and foremost, if you, for a doctor to study and become a doctor, they have a thing what you call the Hippocratic Oath. Now, Hippocrates is deemed as the father of medicine in the Western world. And his mantra was, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. So the question is, if he's the father of medicine and this is the mantra, let your food be your medicine, how come we have a system that have nothing at all to do with food? Have nothing at all to do with natural treatments. So that's the first part of the deception, that we live in a system that we think has something to do with what it was intended to do. So big business is what changed what medicine should have been about, and what the founder of the medicine said it should be about. So that's the first part of deception. The next part of deception is this, that if you take, for example, Cancer Research UK, they've been studying for over 100 years, or researching for over 100 years. Now, I know that when human beings understand the basic fundamental of anything, we don't need 100 or more years to figure out how to fix the problem. So if they've been researching for over 100 years and they say they haven't found a cure, it means simply that they've been looking in the wrong direction. If you contrast, for example, the progress made in things like surgery, and you find that they can do all sorts of extraordinary things with surgery these days, right? Why is that? There is no room for you to have a repeat customer. You either can do the surgery or you can't do the surgery. So, and there is no room for you to make repeat money from this repeat customer. So, therefore, you have to get that right. But in the case of, for example, cancer, you have, in spite of this over 100 years of research, the number one choice of treatment is chemotherapy. It's been number one for over 70 years. And we know that chemo kills good and bad cells. There is no way that we can justify, even if they didn't find a cure, justify using that being the number one choice of treatment when it does so much damage to the body. As a matter of fact, the evidence from my research shows that many people, a good percentage of the people who go through this process of chemo die from the chemo itself, according to many doctors. So the deception is there that people are assuming that where they're looking for the answer is where the answer is going to come from. And in fact, it's not going to come from some drugs. Because if what they're saying, based on the Dr. Warburg experience, and I mentioned earlier, let me just expand on the 2009 clinical trial done by Cancer Research UK. This goes to one of the deception that they spread, that cancer, there's many types of cancer and you have to treat them differently. So they try to promote the idea that or we need more money to deal with breast cancer, or we need money to do with prostate cancer. They did this clinical trial, and what did they do? They apply oxygen to different parts of the body that have cancer, and all of the different areas that they apply the oxygen, the cancer receded. So they are saying, for example, that, let me just read some of the stuff that they have said they have found from their research.
Like another 3 minutes, so.
Right? Previously, experts have tried to cut off blood supply, fueling tumor growth to starve and kill it. So they tried, that's what their previous thing, to starve it of oxygen. But the new method improves the blood vessels within the tumor, increasing concentration of oxygen. If the oxygen within a tumor is increased, cancerous cells become far more sensitive to treatment. Instead of boosting tumors' growth potential, oxygen, has the opposite effect and weakens the cancer from inside, making it far more sensitive to harsh radiotherapy. So, in spite of this role that they say oxygen plays, they're not giving up the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy. They still want to use that. Usually cancer cells fight to survive, but the new treatment makes them weak and less resistant to treatment. Cancer low in oxygen are 3 times more resistant to radiotherapy. So by restoring oxygen levels to that of a normal cell, the tumors become 3 times more sensitive to treatment, and a better, more stable blood supply in the tumor enables improved delivery of chemotherapy drugs. So they're still on the chemo same way, no matter what is it they find out. So this is what this thing is all about. The deception is the fact that they already have the information there, but it doesn't involve any drugs. Therefore, they can't patent it to make billions and billions. And so therefore, that is not their line of business. They're not involved in natural treatment. They're not involved in a cure. They're involved in treatment. And that means you're a customer for life. And as long as they don't find a cure, then therefore they're in business.
I just want to read something I was saying to Alicia Agmore. I wish more people would take note of this information. I have been researching this and other information for the past few years, and it all leads to the same conclusion and proved to be very true. Okay, so somebody's agreeing. Now, I've got another minute. There's one more question I want to ask you, because I have to lead on now. How serious is the cancer problem currently?
Well, according to Cancer Research UK says 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will develop cancer. So it's either us or somebody we know. According to the Center for Disease Control, cancer is the second leading cause of death of children between ages 1 and 14, superseded only by accidents.
Okay, thank you. Now, I've only got a minute left. Alright? Can you show your 2 books again one more time, please? And that is Demystifying Cancer, and you can get it on Amazon and eBay, or just Amazon?
It's on Amazon.
Okay, and can you show the other book, please? And that is Love of Money, the Root of All Evil, the Greatest Lie Ever Sold. You have another 40 seconds. You want to say something within that 40 seconds before you call it a wrap?
Yes, I just want people to apply some common sense, especially to do this issue about chemotherapy. First and foremost, it's established, and the general consensus amongst the cancer industry and the pharmaceutical industry is that there is no cure for cancer. So if they don't have any cure, why is it so many people queuing up to go and get this non-cure? So they're saying there is no cure, but people are queuing up. So the chemotherapy is, if a healthy person takes chemo, they'll get sick. What's the chance of a sick person taking chemo and becoming well?
Peace, thanks.
Media Radio 104.1 FM. News and views around your community.